Oh, what fun to be back here. This is a really great conference. And, you know, Mayor Janway thanked everybody. I think we ought to give him a big hand. This is just really good. And I'm not going to talk long, I promise, because you've got some great entertainment here. And I wouldn't want to delay that or delay dinner or anything like that. Mayor Janway, my friend, asked me to speculate about the future of the Permian. And, you know, Yogi Berra's phrase always comes to mind. I'll talk about anything, forecast anything but the future. But let's start with some things that we know. Last year in 2018, the New Mexico portion of the Permian, New Mexico produced 250 million barrels of oil. More than 4 times what it was producing in 2008, 62 million barrels. This year, if you keep going at current rates, it's going to be way north of 300, probably 325 to 350 million barrels of oil. You're going to be producing nearly 1 million barrels a day. That is an incredible accomplishment. And it's a good question about how much will be produced next year, maybe upwards of 400 million. But I'm always surprised, I'm surprised about how much this region produces. Okay, so I didn't know whether to wear my dismal science hat or my Cubs hat, my optimism hat today. But I'm going to talk about a couple of things that may be problematic in the region, not to put a damper on anything. We all know, first of all, that there's plenty of oil in the ground and that you have the technology to get it out. You know how to get it out. The pipeline problem is being solved. You're going to have plenty of pipeline capacity. So what could go wrong? Well, everybody in this room knows what can go wrong, and that's price. And the price of West Texas Intermediate today was $55.75. And that price can bounce around based on all kinds of weird things. The price dropped a little bit yesterday after John Bolton was fired. Why is that? Not because John Bolton has anything to do with oil markets, except that he was a hardliner on Iran. And firing him might mean that we'd cozy up to Iran and lift the sanctions on Iran, and that'd put some more oil on the market. We've got about 6 million barrels a day. That's out of about 100 million that we consume that's off the market between OPEC and the Russians and Venezuela and other places. We've got about 6 million barrels off the market. So there's a demand problem as well. You know, and how long is all that going to last? How long are the Saudis and the Russians going to be good friends and keep cutting to prop up the price a little bit? Who knows? Nobody knows. The incentive to cheat in a cartel arrangement like that is immense. So we could have some of that oil coming back on the market. And of course, in the Permian, especially, increasing production is not helping price a little bit. So we could have a good disruption there. Other things that could happen. I hate to tell you this, but we have not abolished the business cycle. There will be a recession, and that will affect what's going on here. We might have a global recession, we might have a US recession, but we have not abolished the business cycle. There are some 40,000 members of the American Economics Association, and I don't know a one of them who is saying that we have abolished the business cycle. The question, of course, is the timing, severity, and duration of a recession. And economists have all kinds of tools that they use to try to predict this. Crystal ball, statistical models. Some people get excited by the yield curve, which inverted recently. There are a number of economists who point out that before every US recession since World War II, there's been an increase in oil prices. Some people blame it on the Federal Reserve Board. You know, all of that stuff has some plausibility, and then again, not much. One of the things that we really do know about recessions in the United States is that each one is unique and was caused by a unique set of forces. And so will the next one, but we do know that it's coming. But I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't think we're quite there yet. The one indicator that always works to let us know that we're in a recession is when high-level government officials and high-level business executives tell you that the fundamentals of the economy are strong. And I'm serious. I can trace this back to the Great Depression, and when you hear that, it's too late. Run for the hills. The people who are saying it have already sold short. They're gone. There is absolutely no reason to use that phrase when things are good. Now, I've only heard that twice in the last few weeks, and it wasn't very high up. So, trust me, that's the only fail-safe indicator. When you hear that phrase over and over again on the morning financial shows and the like, you'll know we've already reached the peak and we're headed for a recession. We're in a recession, and that will affect the Permian. Okay, now, how severe will that be? What will it do to prices? It'll certainly affect the demand for oil, it always does. I can't really tell you that. I was asked a little while earlier to predict the price of oil, and you know, we're sitting at $55 WTI. You know, the Energy Information Administration has a confidence interval, what they call a prediction interval, for about the next 18 months, and they say it'll be somewhere between $35 and $100. And that's not very helpful. If you really think it's going to 100 anytime soon, you can buy the futures market right now for, say, December 2020 or January 2021. You can buy all the oil you want for $54. If you think it's going for 100, there's no need for any of you to drill anymore. Just go buy that stuff. Somebody will supply it for you. Okay, now, one last thing, and I'll quit. Thank you for indulging me here, but I've got to make a prediction that you may not like, and that is that in a couple of years, some incredibly courageous oil field worker is going to be driving from Carlsbad to a job site in an all-electric vehicle. This vehicle is a pickup truck. It has already been produced. It will go into mass production next year. It will have about 700 horsepower. It is four-wheel drive. It'll go 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Are there any law enforcement officers here? And it'll haul has a towing capacity of 11,000 pounds. Now, that oil field worker, as courageous, you know, might lose his job, but it's coming. It really is coming. That's no threat to oil demand or gasoline demand this year, next year, or 5 years. But in 10 or 12 years, electric vehicles will probably outsell internal combustion engine vehicles, and Yeah. And that's gonna be a real issue for the industry and for the Permian. Not now, but then. Okay, so what have we got? You've got 10 or 12 years to find an alternative use for oil. You get 19 or 20 gallons of gasoline out of a barrel of oil. In a few years, you're gonna need to find something else to do with that. Okay, in the meantime, you don't need to worry about that. Welcome those electric vehicles. This is also a tourist area. And you want those tourists to come here and they're gonna be driving EVs, promise. Thank you very much. And I got out of here without saying what the price of oil will be. But next week it'll be somewhere around 55 bucks. Nothing is shaking that, not anytime soon. Thank you.